Hey guys, what's up? Look at this, look at this, look at this beautiful day. Come on in, come on in. I'm waiting for y'all. Once y'all come in, we'll hang out in my backyard. Why not, right? It's early, it's Friday, and I don't want to talk about anything too serious. I just want to hang out with y'all. Come on in. Oh, Jonna, how you doing, girl? Good to see you. Good morning, Colleen Sullivan. I have these super... Oh, am I going live to the whole page? Oh, it sure looks like we are. Well, I put hashtag supporters. I set it to supporters, and it went live to the whole page. So guess what? Facebook, we're just going to do a show then for everybody. God, Facebook. Can I let me rant for 1 second in this beautiful backyard Zen thing. Facebook sucks. Recently, in the last couple months, they've had nothing but technical glitches. My supporters can't find old supporter videos. I find them unresponsive. It's like, could I just ditch this platform entirely and move to locals and YouTube? I'd be perfectly happy with that. So if Facebook, if you're listening, we have 2.4 million followers on your platform. We're just going to take them somewhere else. Is that okay? Anyways, what do you guys think of my cheap Costco sunglasses? I wear them outside so I can look like a 1980s like reject from the skate club in high school. One thing, guys, since we're live to the whole page, and I was going to do a live show later today about Fauci's emails, which, hey, between you and me, I couldn't care less. Like, how people interpret Fauci's emails is entirely based on their tribal identity. If they're liberal and they're follow the science people, they're going to say, well, look at this guy with integrity. Yeah, he's sleep deprived. He responds to all these people. He was pretty consistent. And then if your tribal badge is conservative, open up, Fauci's a liar, well, then you're going to look at those emails and go, look, see, he was equivocating on masks. He was flip-flopping on this. He knew about the Wuhan lab leak. And you can interpret the same email 100 different ways. And it's kind of like, why even effing bother then? Like, why is that even a national conversation? Because we know it's just more tribalization. There's no truth to be found there. By the way, speaking of truth, look at this shit right here. This is the only truth you need. The present moment. Ashley Stewart, I love the sunglasses. I have cheap Walmart ones myself. I know. The cheapest sunglasses are often the most functional. You may look like a dork, but who cares? I mean, who's really watching? Except for me, there's 1.1 thousand people watching. Afton says, oh, yeah, I can't believe the interpretations I've seen. Yeah, right? Here, let's talk a little. Let's walk out a little further and have a chat. So let's just talk about the Fauci emails real quick, since I wasn't intending to go live to the whole page, just supporters, and just share some backyard love with you. But now that we're, everybody's here. Okay, so Freedom of Information Act, they request a bunch of Fauci emails. Now, he's a government employee, so he knows that his emails can become public. Many government employees actually prefer to use telephone for that reason, because then there isn't a record of this stuff and they can speak freely and so on. Now, Fauci is a government employee for how many years? Served multiple administrations. He knows exactly what he's doing. So when he writes emails, I'm sure he knows exactly how to write them. Now, he says he gets something like was getting 1,000 emails a day at that point. I know what that's like, because I used to get somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 messages per week on Facebook alone. And I used to respond to all of them initially, and then I realized most of them, I couldn't do it anymore. Now, Fauci apparently still does respond, even if he just says noted or thanks for your message, right? So he knew what was happening. He knew that his emails eventually, could and would come out. It's not like they were leaked. It was a Freedom of Information Act request by the press. So why would you think there's going to be some big gotcha, right? You can look at any of his emails and interpret them any number of the ways depending on what your pre-existing belief patterns are. This is about belief. It's about polarization. It's about constructed reality. It's not about any degree of truth. So let's just give up this idea that anything in the Fauci emails is going to be in any way revelatory of anything. And that's the bottom line. So I don't care what you think about Fauci. I don't care what you believe about Fauci. I don't care what you believe about the pandemic. Nothing in this is going to point to any truth. Take, for example, the lab leak thing. So some guy who was in the foundation that did research in that Wuhan lab sent him an unprovoked email saying, hey, thank you for dispelling myths around this lab leak hypothesis or something. And Fauci said, yeah, I know, it's most likely animal transmission, blah, blah, blah. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. Okay. If you think Fauci's covering up stuff because they funded this Wuhan lab, you're going to say, well, look at that. That's evidence of a cover-up. He's cozying up to the researchers. It's all like, collusion. Basically the same thing they said about, Trump with the Russians, right? It just depends on what your tribal identifier is. And then if you're on the other side, you'll say, he's just being objective. That was the prevailing theory and still is that it was animal transmission, but there's this other hypothesis, blah, 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 Fauci has said publicly. Now, there are some points where Fauci contradicts what he said publicly, like in terms of masking with what he's doing privately in the emails. That's public health. That's just what these guys do. Let's be completely transparent. Like, it has very little nefarious intent, and it's more just public health people want to project one message, and on the back end, they're like running around like Benny Hill with their, heads cut off. I'm not saying Fauci in particular, but I'm saying that's just how public health is done. And we've talked about it multiple times on the show. So, that's kind of the thing with Fauci's emails, and you see it, it's all over the news, and everybody's freaking out about it, and Rand Paul's going off. And by the way, look, I don't care what any politician says about any effing thing at all. They just don't, it just doesn't matter, right? All of them are effing clowns as far as I'm concerned. So that's just my elephant response to politics. Let's read some comments. Let me see if I can read some comments here. Let me scroll down. By the way, this was a show that was only supposed to go to supporters. This is how I do it for supporters in my backyard. We have backyard rounds. And let me read some comments, but I'm going to switch the camera so you guys can get a little zen in your life, because sometimes when I get fired up, I lose my zen, or actually maybe I gain it. Hold on. All right. So let's get a little of that going. What about autoimmune treatment, drugs, and low? That comment ran away from me. Let's see. What about autoimmune treatment, drugs, and low or no COVID vaccine effectivity? Linda Drosty. So Linda, I haven't seen the data on that. I've heard people asking about that. It makes sense that if you're on immune suppressants, that you're going to have less of an immune response to the vaccine. You're also at high risk for COVID because you're going to have have an immune suppression. But I still think that the data might suggest, and I haven't looked directly at this specific, if there is specific data on this, that getting a vaccine is still better than not getting a vaccine. It just may mean that you have to be a little bit more careful because you might be in that, 10% of people that can get infected despite having the vaccine. Now, you may still, what we really care about is not infection. It's not PCR positivity. What we really care about is, are you in the hospital? Are you very sick with complications? And are you dying? That's what we care about. And if the vaccines can ameliorate that, that's all we care about. All right, let's keep going here and see. Amanda Faith, you have some angry non-supporters commenting, Amanda. Well, see, here's the thing, Amanda. I'm going to tell you a little something. So, again, I was intending just to go live to supporters, and we were going to have a very calm meditative backyard rounds. As soon as the entire Facebook opened up, and because Facebook served this to everybody because they effing suck, now you can see how my energy changes too. Because if you look at the general comments on Facebook, they're mainly idiotic. Like, it's mainly people who have no effing idea what they're talking about things they have no idea about, as if they know exactly what they're talking about. Facebook rewards polarization. It rewards comments that are the most outrageous and egregious. And it's just like all of social media right now. It's divisive, it's polarizing, and it's pretty much worthless. So what we have to do is try to cut through all that, and it's very difficult if you're distracted by other people's comments. That's why I try not to even look at them. That's why I closed my Facebook messages, because 9 out of 10 of the messages I got on Facebook were complete idiocy. And so, after a pandemic worth of this, I'm just done. I'm done with it. I'm like, no, If you want to reach me, you can reach me through my website. There's a contact form there. It's a couple extra clicks, which means you're going to be less likely to just go, hey, dumbass, you're bald and stupid, and by the way, your kid's ugly. It's like, okay, now I got to go through the trouble of blocking you and, having a transient emotional response that I recognize and go, oh, that's an emotional response. So now you don't get to do that. And guess what? I'm vastly happier. And has it changed anything? No. So it just goes to show social media is garbage. Now, there's some exceptions. Our supporter tribe on Facebook is the best. Our supporter tribe on Locals is the best. Our supporter tribe on YouTube is the best. It's like-minded people who are alt-middle thinkers, who respect each other even when they disagree. I've seen comments there that would be so polarizing on the main page that they would lead to butthurt, the likes of which you couldn't imagine. Instead, going, oh yeah, I understand your stance. I might think of it this way. Like, that's how the conversation goes. It's respectful. It's coming from a place of love. It's assuming good intent. That's how social media should work. It should be social, not this BS. I can't tell you how much I despise Facebook. If you're really getting me started now, I hate it. I hate it. It sucks the soul out of you. And I'm not talking about supporters. Support is a whole different thing. Thank God Facebook did that. That's the one thing they did right. The rest of it is garbage. I closed down a 50,000 person discussion group, Z-Pack Tribe Talk, because it was garbage. It was filth. All it did was cause suffering. We had to close down Doc Vader's page because it was funny, and it triggered Facebook's police to say this is misinformation because people were posting joke memes. It's like the end of civilization was the beginning of Facebook. Let's be honest. And here I am on it, right? Trying to connect with my supporters. And what does Facebook do? It beams it to everybody. So now everybody can see exactly how I feel about Facebook. Gonna lose my crap right now in the morning. This is what happens. This is what happens, Mr. Lebowski, when you... Anyways, I'll let you finish the quote. Thanks for the stars, Char Owen, and everyone else who's sending stars. Melissa says ass book. You had me at coming from a place of love, Pamela. So let's talk about love, because I've talked enough about anger. And this is another thing, like, if you guys have seen my series on Awakening with Angelo DeLulo, we put out one on Facebook, the first intro, which is a slower episode, it introduces it all. But the full series is out on Locals, and I put a link in the Facebook thing that you could access that. It's like $5 a month. Sign up for a month for $5 and watch all 5 of the series, plus the 2 supporter shows about spiritual awakening. And this is what you might learn, which is part of the reason I'm so free with my emotion with you guys, is that I allow myself to authentically feel emotion, let it pass through me, inhabit it and be it, express it without acting out too much, and let it pass, instead of repressing it like we're really good at doing in medicine and everywhere else, and then letting it fester and having it come out in passive-aggressive ways. I have learned over years of struggle to just let emotion be. Inhabit it, feel it, be it, let it pass through you. That includes anger. That includes anger, because what happens when you repress anger? How does it come out? It will come out. It won't be ignored. These are real life forces, these emotions. They're real. You know they're real because you feel them right now in the present moment. If you don't repress them. If you repress them, you feel the resistance. You feel the repression pattern. So this new series about awakening with Dr. DeLulo is one way to understand that. In his book, Awake, It's Your Turn, which is available on Amazon, you can just search it, goes through this in beautiful, direct detail. How to deal with emotion, whole chapter on that. How to deal with thoughts, whole chapter on that. How to deal with belief, whole chapter on that. How to deal with paradox, whole chapter on that. It's beautiful. So this is about love. It's about giving you the tools to feel the real nature of reality, which is pure, unconditional love. That's why I love the supporter tribe, because that's what we do. I may sit back here in the yard, chill out on the sofa here and just share the present moment with you. What it's like to be right here, right now, and nowhere else. Let's see what y'all are saying. Let me scroll it down. Man, there's a lot of comments. Love what you do. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Kathy. That's kind of you. What a generous comment. Jennifer, love catching love. God, you guys are so nice. Stop being so nice now. You're making me feel bad about crapping on Facebook. Carissa Trujillo, my emotions landed me in the hospital this past weekend. Carissa, I'm so sorry to hear that. Really, that is... Can I make an observation? And it may not be true in your case, but I'll say it might be true in mine. And in some other people's. Was it your emotions that landed you in the hospital? Or was it the patterns of resistance that you showed to those pure emotions? Because if you think about the pure emotion of fear, or shame, or humiliation, or anxiety, or anger, when you really allow yourself to feel that pure emotion now, it feels, you almost become that emotion. It's a pattern of energy. There's no good or bad. Good or bad is the judgment our mind places on the feeling, the sensation of the emotion after it arises. And there's my cat. And much of the suffering comes from the resistance the mind then puts on feeling the emotion. Instead of allowing it, we're conditioned from young age to resist emotion. So what ends up happening, it comes out in very maladaptive ways, and we end up in the hospital, or we end up hurting somebody, or we end up hurting ourselves, or we end up continuing to repress and spending so much of our life energy repressing emotion instead of allowing life to authentically be in this moment. That's why, we waste so much time, we waste so much energy like going online and going, what did Fauci say on his emails? And what did Rand Paul say about Fauci? And what's Biden saying about this? And it's kind of like this big cosmic dance of stupidity. Like stupidity meaning none of that's real. These are all stories that we tell ourselves collectively and individually about experience. What if we just experienced the present moment now and acted spontaneously from that experience? So it doesn't mean that you give up on the future or you forget the past. It means you act spontaneously now to generate a future that's better, that's more authentic, that's more connected to what's real. Like, look right now. Look what's real here right now. What's real? The vibrant color of this rose is real. This is exactly what we're experiencing together in this moment. The fog over the San Francisco Bay Area, the experience of the blue contrasting with the white and the gray and the green in your sense field, that's absolutely real. It may trigger an emotion, which is a sensation that you can experience now. It may trigger in your pool of consciousness, the ocean of consciousness that you are, a reflection of one of your senses and that's called a thought. It may trigger a thought, which triggers another thought, which triggers another thought, which triggers an emotion, which triggers another thought, which triggers a memory, which is a thought, which triggers a projection of the future, which is a thought. And when you recognize all that for what it is, you are actually seeing life as it authentically is, and you're allowing it. So what if we did that instead of constantly losing ourselves in the house of mirrors that is thought? What would life be like? I bet you a lot of us doctors would be out of a job because people would be healthier. I think a lot of psychiatrists would be out of a job because people's mental health would be better. I think a lot of social workers would be out of a job because we'd have less drama and strife and division and sense of separateness. Oh, speaking of which, look at this. Look at that beautiful lizard sunning himself or herself. We want to be gender neutral here. Do you think that lizard lives in a world of thought? Do you think that lizard gets lost in a house of mirrors of reflections of thought, going to belief? No, I don't think so. I mean, again, I'm not the lizard, but I will bet you a lot that that lizard lives in the present moment. It just is, right? Oh, look at these rhododendron flowers. Hang on. What else can I show you back here? It's really, in spring, it's really beautiful. Here, hang on. Am I crazy to be talking like this? I mean, is this crazy? So, it's been quite a year. Over a year now of us as a society having the very fabric of what we thought we were torn open. And honestly, that's an opportunity. Because the fabric of what was going on was not a story that I think many of us enjoyed. So now's our chance to wake up. Listen to that. See if I can get your comments back here. Scroll. Oh, come on, comments. Man, Facebook on a phone is really tricky. Here we go. Gorgeous, gorgeous bird, says Julia V. Thank you, Julia. Getting my second shot of Pfizer in a week, Dusty Gavin. So, Dusty, let's talk practicalities. For me, the second Moderna shot was like a kick in the nuts. Really, really felt the man flu. And you know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's fascinating because all of the symptoms that you get, if you get symptoms, many people don't, if you get symptoms from that second shot, they're all purely from your immune system's reaction. And you feel like you have the flu, right? So you can have I had muscle aches, headache, fatigue, fevers, chills, really shaking chills, and you know, kind of muscle aches. And I remember thinking at the time, how fascinating. This is the aspect of cold and flu that's your immune system. And I can separate it now from the viral aspect of it, the actual replication and damage the virus causes. Because with the vaccine, there's no cough, there's no congestion, there's no that feeling in your chest, none of that. So you start to go, oh, interesting. So when you're naturally infected with a virus, you can now start to get a sense of what those symptoms are coming from, what's coming from the virus and what's coming from your body's response to the virus. It's a really fascinating experience. So if you have symptoms with the second vaccine, imagine, just put yourself in the mindset of, oh, this is my immune system. How about that? Wow. That is the aspect of when I feel sick, when I'm infected with something, that is actually the good aspect. It's my immune system firing up. And it will reframe your experience. Instead of being like, oh, woe is me. I mean, you'll still look for sympathy. I sure did, from the wife and kids. But you'll frame your experience much, much, much differently, in a more positive way. So hope you have a good experience, Dusty. Pearl says, you should have a YouTube Zen video for meditation. You know, Pearl, if I'm being totally honest, all I want to do on YouTube and Facebook moving forward is stuff about consciousness, awakening, meditation, self-improvement. Couldn't care less about medicine. You know why? Because without fixing that stuff, medicine is just throwing Band-Aids on things. But I still am interested in medicine. I still like to teach, and so it'll be a mix of things. So stick with us. Let's see, God, how do I look at these without, here, let me get you guys a view while I look at your comments. California has so many problems, says Barb. That sound is what happens when the whole world has been in a pandemic. It's wonderful. That sound is what happens when I don't know what we're talking about, but I kind of like where you're going from an intuitive standpoint. Wait, what? It doesn't give you COVID? Oh, you mean the vaccine, Sarah? Yeah, no, sorry, it doesn't. Michelle says, amazing. I zoned into the here and now. Thank you. Stop, Michelle. Wait, hold on. I gotta sit down on this wet cushion and talk to y'all. You zoned into the here and now, and you wrote in all caps how amazing that was. Let's do it again. So what happens when you're so present, you're so in the moment, that there's no future and there's no past? Those are just stories we tell now. And nothing exists but this present moment. If a thought arises, it arises now. If a memory comes up, it happens now. What if you had no future and no past and only now? What does that feel like? Where would your words come from? Are you planning what you say? Are you thinking about what you're speaking? Or are the words just coming from nowhere and going into nowhere right now? And what does that feel like? If you look at my face, you can see what it feels like to me. And I think a lot of people feel like you need drugs or alcohol or nicotine or vape pens or whatever to get into the present moment. But I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that it's your birthright. It's what we are, is the present moment. All of us. You don't need to add anything. All you need to do is look. Right now. It's there. So, this pandemic may have been a gift because we had a lot more free brain cycles to pay attention to now. If we drop the news, if we turn off most of our social media, if we just sit in presence whenever we remember to do that. You can do it for 2 minutes a day. And if you do it every day, your life will change. The lives of those around you will change because of the fundamental shift in perspective that you get. So that's what I wanted to say, except I didn't want to say it. It just comes out. And that's why I think if there's one good thing about Facebook, it's that it lets us be together right now, live. What if my heart feels heavy now? Says Carol. Then feel it. Don't resist it. Don't spin stories about it. Don't ask why. Where does your heart feel heavy? Feel that. Put your attention there. Don't resist at all. Don't separate from the feeling by even a hair's breadth. And see what happens. Mandy made it to the show. Thank you for this relaxation. COVID has stressed and affected us all. Thank you for this relaxation, Sarah. COVID is how do I describe this? In many ways, we know it's a real thing. We know it's a virus. We know it's hurt and killed people. We know it's caused untold suffering. But it's also a story. It's also a belief. It's also a concept that we ruminate on, that we reflect on in our mind's eye. And that reflection causes a kind of suffering that COVID itself doesn't cause. Because unless you're infected with COVID on a ventilator or sick or having a family member who's suffering with it, the only way COVID can hurt you right now, especially if you're vaccinated, is by infecting your thought. Generating thoughts that project into the future, anxiety, that project into the past, regret, that resist what is right now, which is a beautiful spring filled with sunlight and birds and hope, and if it's raining, rain, and if it's cold, coldness. That's real. That's real. The thoughts are reflections. And if you get lost in the house of mirrors, that's a uniquely human suffering. There's a saying in Zen that thinking, self-discursive thinking, is the disease of the human mind. And it's true. It's true. All our suffering comes from thought. I love that I didn't even mean to do this. That's serious present moment right there. I didn't mean to go public to the whole page. I didn't mean to talk about this stuff. I just was going to hang out with supporters in my backyard. Let's do this every morning, says Danielle Allison. I'm down. I'm down if you are. All right. So, put my cheap Costco sunglasses back on. I'm going to get ready for the day because there's a lot to do today. I got to get into the studio. For the 1,100 people who are still watching, I'm so grateful that you stayed to be present with me during this. I know life is crazy. It's crazy for all of us. But just taking 5 minutes to just be right here, it really makes all the difference. And we'll try to do more and more of this if you guys are interested. And even if you're not, it's kind of what I want to do. So you may want to unsubscribe now. All right, guys. I love you all so much. Even the trolls. Because we're all the same thing, all right? And we're just expressing ourselves in our own hurt and our own confusion and our own bewilderment. And I have plenty of that myself in our own way. So thank you, trolls, for all your comments. All right, guys. I love you, and we is out.